Hello and welcome to this Wargames Atlantic painting video. I'm Peachy and I'm going to take you through some super quick ways of painting your 10mm Azincourt French. For extra info on prepping the sprues, check out the video I did previously on painting the English army. So without further ado, let's crack on. For easy access, I've cut away a bunch of feed lines to these models and that saves up on cleanup later. So first up, I'm going to use some dark battle dress and dry brush this all over the minis. This is just mostly for the horses here on the sprue, as I can always add some silver after onto the knights. You can be heavy or as light as you like. By using both, you can add a little bit of variety to the horses' colours as well. I'm also going to do this on the crossbowman sprue too, as they'll have lots of leather and wood details on those models. So again, just work your way around and take your time on those. On the cavalry and knight sprue, I'm going to dry brush the foot knights with gunmetal. That brown undercoat is fine as it lends itself to a more of a weathered armoured look, or a more muddy look depending on the point of the battle. Again, work your way around, you're aiming to get the raised areas here, so be fairly light with the dry brushes. For the mounted knights, you can dry brush them as well, like I'm doing here, or if you're not confident enough to do that, you can simply base coat with a normal brush instead. The dry brush option is quicker, but may require a little bit more correction after. Also, don't forget to pick out any silver bits on the crossbowmen. So this is going to be things like helmets and the odd breastplate. Again, that'll be on the fronts and the backs of the models. And of course the crossbows have a couple of little metal details too, so it's worth picking them out if you're feeling adventurous enough to do so. Next I'm going to start picking out any blue details, mostly the surcoats on the knights. Now I won't do this on every knight as I like to mix up the colours a little with these. With the English I kept it to reds and whites mostly, but here I'll predominantly use blue with some other colours thrown in. From a gaming perspective, it's going to help identify the two forces as well. On the mounted knights, I'll do the odd surcoat, but adding that blue to the harness will really help those horses pop out a bit more. And not forgetting them crossbowmen peasants, a nice selection of blue added here too. Again, like the French knights, I'll mix this up a little bit to give the impression of an ad hoc, but very French looking force. And for the pavés shields, I'll mix this up a little bit by doing some with blue shields and white stripes, and vice versa. Much like the English army, I'm just going to go around now and pick out the odd surcoat with white as well. One coat should normally do, depending on how it's been thinned down. I tend to use it a little bit more thinned down than straight from the pot because it can be quite thick. And of course, as I alluded to earlier, I'll add in some white onto those pavés shields too. When doing these pavés shields, try not to be too regular with the patterning, and when you're doing this, try and break it up a little bit so it feels a little bit more ad hoc. Again, you can always throw in some other colours if you're feeling you want to add a bit more variety as well. But I'm just keeping it to blue and white. It felt only right and proper to add in the third colour of the French tricolour, and again will help break up the blocks of knights and add more colour to the heraldry options as well. Don't forget to add in some colour to the mounted knights too. Much like how I made my English archers feel more ragtag and less noble, I'm going to do the same with the crossbowmen. By adding in some of the same green I use on those English archers, it keeps the paint count low, but also adds that visual link to the commoners of both armies. For any skin details, I'm going to use Paratrooper Tan. Again, you're not trying to paint beautiful pieces of art here, more blocking in colours for vast amounts of tiny little soldiers. The crossbowmen will have more faces and hands exposed, but the knights will be a little bit more forgiving with the odd helm visor lifted up. To add some extra punch to the spears and staves and pole axes, I'm going to add in a little bit of mid battle dress. It's a little bit brighter than the colour we dry brush with, which helps these details pop out a little bit more. Then using that dark battle dress, which is the colour we dry brushed with, I'm just going to pick out some belts and scabbards. Again, just work my way around. It's just to help break up that shape and give it a little bit more visual variety. For any horse manes, tails and hooves, I'm going to pick them out with some grim black. As it's a speed paint, it's conveniently thinned down to the perfect ratio, but if you just have a normal black, then just thin that down instead. Just a little bit of water, just for ease of application. Then my favourite part, wash time. I find this stage, certainly on small minis like these, really helps add in those extra shadows and definitions between colours. If you're not a fan of shades, then by all means skip this part, but it really does help add in that extra effort so you don't have to. As always, be mindful of pooling, especially around the feet. Just dry off your brush and soak off any excess. After the wash shade is completely dried, I often go around and reapply the base colours for some extra punch. It kind of acts as my main highlight stage. That's if you can even be bothered with these extra steps. So I'm just going to reapply the flesh to the cheeks and noses on both the crossbowmen and the knights. Again, just work your way around, picking out what feels right and what you can spot. You can be super neat here if you wish, or even add in a little bit more effort. It's totally your choice. Then I'm going to tie up any blue surcoats and horse harnesses. Again, don't forget the backs of the models. Sometimes it can be a bit of a faff turning the sprue back and forth, but once you have a process or a method in place, it becomes a little bit more efficient and you get used to it. And not forgetting any blue details on my crossbowmen as well. Then it's doing the exact same thing with any red surcoats. So again, work your way around, doing the fronts and the backs. And any white surcoats. Now I'd be tempted to apply a thinner coat here, a brigade grey, as it can be quite pigment heavy. Then for some extra shininess on your sword blades and other hand weapons, I'm just going to reapply any gunmetal to those areas. Or you can opt to give them a little dry brush instead, seeing as most sit nicely above the models. Now to add in some heraldry. Now where the British have red crosses, the French sport white ones. Pretty straightforward as army heraldry goes, and visually helps split the forces a bit too. In some places I'll add in the odd other colour as well, like this blue cross, again doing it on the front as well as the back. Crossbowmen will have like a small cross on the left breast as well, or any commoners. So if you want to do that, you can pick them out, especially if there's space. And if you're feeling super adventurous, add in some yellow markings or other colours of your choosing. You can keep it simple by halving the surcoats, or add in vertical stripes or horizontal stripes. I mean, anything really. It's entirely up to you. Have some fun. For any flags and banners, there's plenty of reference, but for the main French army flag, let's add in some fleur-de-lis. Now at this scale, it's pretty hard, but I went in with more of a, as long as it kind of looks the sort of thing I'm trying to do, then that's fine. So adding in 3 vertical lines, then I started to thicken them up a little bit at the top. Looks more like an arrowhead at this point. Then I started to add in a sort of upside down horizontal crescent. So this is part of the, obviously, like the fleur-de-lis bits that are flying off. Now for the most part here, there's a little bit of tidy up with the blue, recorrect with the yellow, and then vice versa, rinse and repeat. Sometimes that's just the case. Always do this in the base coat stage as well, because once you've applied that wash, you need to try and then kind of match that after as well. Really, at the end of the day, as long as it kind of roughly looks what you're trying to do at a distance, that's all that matters. Now to finish off the models, I'm just going to start adding some textured paint to their bases. I'm going to do this while they're on the sprue, because it's a lot easier to do it now than when they're all kind of all glued together in a big block, because you have to try and get your brush into those nooks and crannies, and it just gets a bit harder to do so. I mean, you can clip them off the sprue if you want to and do it that way. I've just kind of left them on and just working my way around. Again, it's totally up to you as a painter how you want to do this. I'm just doing it here because it's just a lot more convenient and easy. And there we are, our 10mm French knights and crossbowmen are ready to take on the pesky English invaders. Again, it's worth pointing out these are super small, so don't go mad with all the details, as you're going to need to paint hundreds. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.